Hi Flosstube, it's Lynn, the Canadian Stitcher. I'm back for my 2-week update. So hello and welcome. Thank you for coming back if you're a returning viewer, and if you're a new subscriber, welcome and thanks for stopping by. I hope you like the video and will consider subscribing. I do videos every 1 or 2 weeks depending on how much I have to talk about and show for progress. Often if I've only worked on one project during the week, I might not make a video just because there's just not that much to talk about. And I know some people like shorter videos, medium length and longer. I try to keep mine to about 30 minutes. That's what I enjoy watching for myself. So, and that's typically about how much I have to talk about. So this is a 2-week update. So I'm going to do questions and comments first. So thank you all for all of your wonderful compliments that you've been giving me on my cross stitch that I've been working on, and some of the little needle minders that I made out of fresh pansies from my garden. That's very kind of you all. Christine George wanted hints on using a Qsnap. So I have my little grapevine or rosebud wreath here, and I just took it out of the Qsnap, and I'm going to try to do this on video. I am planning on doing more how-to kind of beginner videos, like how to use a hoop, how to use a Qsnap, how to use scroll rods, but do them with myself out of frame and more of my hands and showing the different products that I use, different techniques that I use. I want to do that. I didn't actually realize that I would have so many beginner cross stitchers tuning into my channel when I started doing this. I kind of thought that people would go to some of the older floss tubers and kind of work their way, through, but I am getting a lot of people that are just learning how to cross stitch and don't know some of the techniques. And I'm also getting people who are just coming back to cross stitch after being away for several years or even decades. And there's so much new information and so many new techniques and things that can be used. So I do want to make those more tutorial how-tos, learning how to cross stitch or how to use the different tools. I need the time and I need the organization to be able to set up my camera and be able to film that with just my hands, and I need the proper lighting and all of that kind of thing. So the past couple of weeks haven't been very good for me health-wise, so that was not in any way a possibility. So now I'm feeling better, and I'm back today making a video, and I'll see how it goes. If I can do some beginner ones, they won't be labeled as my floss tube. They'll be like it'll be on this channel, but it'll be beginning cross stitch #1, how to, however it goes. So for using the Qsnaps, this is what I have found work. So I hope I can do this okay. So what I do is I just got my little 8x8 here. So you put it together into the square frame, and then I lay the fabric down on top of that onto a clean surface. I find it easier if I do it on a table or something. I take a little fabric scrap, so this is just a rag, literally. This was an old baby blanket that I kept all my baby blankets for rags, the ones that weren't good enough to give away. And then you take the first bar, I'm not sure what these are called with the slits in them, and I press it straight down either on the top or one of the sides. So that's on there now. And then I spin it to tighten it up. The one thing with this is though, and I do this too, I don't always get them on there perfectly straight, and then I end up having to take them off, which is what happened here. So I'm going to do that again. When I was doing my long dog sampler, I don't know if you watched that video, but the cat had scratched my finger and I had gotten a bit of blood on it, and I had washed it and dried it twice. Yeah, and it took me 5 attempts to get that onto the Qsnap straight and properly. So here we go again. So just snap that on there. And then I just roll it a bit to tighten it up. And then when I go to do the next one, I go to the opposite side. So instead of going to the side of it, I'm going to go to the bottom one. I get the fabric as tight as I can. And I put the Qsnap closer in towards the picture or the fabric, as close as I can, and then snap that on and then roll it to tighten it again. So that, like, I don't put it on just straight on from the top. I put it on closer down here, and then I roll it to get a really good tension. And then I do the sides the same way, just using little fabric scraps. I also bought a set of white men's handkerchiefs off of Amazon, which I use on some of my, I have some of them that have the handkerchiefs on them instead because they're white. They don't have any color in them. No worry about color transfer. So just snap that on there and roll it, and then same thing. And those work really good. And I actually, Christine was saying that she finds the Qsnaps too loose. So this actually really helps to add some more bulk to it. And then you get and roll it, and you get a really nice tight drum. And then as you're working on it, or as these, you know, tend to roll or whatever, to tighten it up, you just grab onto it and roll it like that. And then you get your tension back. Yeah, so this is my preference, is Qsnaps. I hardly ever use hoops anymore because I don't like the marks that they leave on the fabric. If I am doing something on a hoop, I take it off that day when I'm finished my stitching for that day, and I try to roll my cross stitch up in hopes that it's, you know, not going to leave any hoop marks. So I do really like the Qsnaps. I find I can work a bigger section at a time also using a Qsnap, and I like them for my heights, and it's just a really good tension. I do have scroll rods also. I am using one of my Celtic Spring, and I have a couple of other scroll rods, but I don't have a floor frame, so I find the scroll rods very, very bulky to try and hang on to on my lap or resting up against my knee. So Qsnaps work for me, and I don't necessarily hold them in my hand. I tend to, I put my knee up on the coffee table and I lean the Qsnap against the top of my knee, and then I just kind of stitch. I stitch one-handed and I stitch with it like that. So I find them easy because they're easy to flip over and end a thread, and then I do a loop start from the front. So then I just, you know, to be able to manage this, to flip it over is easier than trying to manage a scroll frame to flip it over to end the thread. So it's just my preference, but it's whatever works for you. And Stitching Diva 328 wanted to know what count Aida I do my heids on. So it depends. I do a conversion using the fabric calculator from Yarn Tree. That's available online. My preference is to use 16 count. So whenever I can, if I can get a piece of fabric that's 16 count that will be the right size for that Haid project, I will use 16 count. And then it just depends on the color. I like the lighter colors. I haven't dyed any fabrics to work Haids on yet. I tend to go beige or a light gray, sometimes white, but I find white gets dirty, shows, you know, dirty so much easier. So, and I do have one that's called Country Mocha that I have for a fall one. So it just depends on what fabrics are available. So what I do is I do the conversion on the Yarn Tree fabric calculator, and I calculate out using the stitch count. So let's say it's 700 by 500. I put that into the Yarn Tree calculator, add a 3-inch border to each side. So total of 6 inches lengthwise and 6 inches height-wise. And then I calculate out what size fabric I would need for 16 count. And then I do 18 count, and then I do 20 count. And then I sit down at the computer. I do them on little index cards. I do my calculations and then I just keep them. And then I go to 1, 2, 3 stitch. That's where I buy my large pieces of fabric from. And I look at the 16 counts and I see if there's fabric large enough for what size the calculator told me that I needed. And if not, then I'll go to 18, and then if not, I'll go up to 20. But I find 20 is more difficult to work on. I've got aging eyes, so I do use a magnifier sometimes for the finer work, and that's as high as I want to go. I don't want to go up to 25 or 32 count or anything like that. I just find it's easier to see, and I enjoy my stitching more. So 16 is my preference. Cat Gallant wanted to know what fabric I'm using for Siren and the Shipwreck, and I forgot to say, I'm really bad at that. So I am using a 16, I have to sneeze, excuse me, 16 count sea linen Aida is what I'm using for her, which I got from 123 Stitch. So it's just a 16 count Aida fabric. I got several comments on my stitch maps. I call them stitch maps, or other people have been calling them Haid maps. So I do this for all of my large projects. Even my long dog sampler, I believe, is 16 pages, and I made a stitch map for that one too. So what I do is I figure out the layout of the pattern. A lot of people start at the top corner on page 1 and either work down or work across. I start in the bottom left corner and either do the 2 pages together on the bottom, or I go straight across. This is from Discovery. So able to determine that she is 7 pages across, and then these are the pages that are going to be under it, under it, under it. So me starting down the bottom, if I can read backwards, 43, and above that was page 36. So I stitched 43 and 36 together, and then went to 44 and 37, like that. I'm not sure if you would need to do this if you work from the top down, because it's pretty obvious you're going to be going to page 2 next, right? And then page 3. You might need it more if you're coming down, so that you know that you would need to start page 8, let's say. I don't know. I just, when I the first full coverage that I did, I knew I was going to do cross country. I tried parking and it didn't work for me. And I just wondered how I was going to keep all the pages organized in my mind and not mix them up. So I came up with this idea and created the stitch map, and then as I finish the pages I just highlight them out. It works for me. And then when I go up to page 29, I'm going to know that page 36 was below that and that I did page 36 correctly. So yeah. So I write all the pages too. This is page 43, page 36 is above this, or whatever it is too. I write on them. So I'm always double checking where I'm at. So I did a smaller one here for this version here is Flight of the Lynx, and it's the same idea. It goes pages 1 to 8 across, and then pages, I can't do that, 33 to 40 across. Yep. So just a way for me to organize myself. It works. Okay. I did not get any mislabeled mystery packages this week. I'm kind of disappointed because they've been quite amusing. I did get an actual order though. So I went on to Denki Designs. Denki has a needle minder shop, and she's also a floss tuber. Denki, D-E-N-K-A-I, and her company name is denkidesigns.com, and I ordered a dragon. I'm going to see if I can get a close-up of her shop name there. So I got a dragon needle minder with a fuzzy back. It's cute. Looks like a little caterpillar. This one's going to be for my blue dragon picture that's right over there. So this is the first actual needle minder that I have purchased. All the rest of them, I mean, I have many of them, but I was just making them myself because I have a bunch of magnets. And she very kindly sent a little gift with purchase. So thank you, Charisse. That was very nice of you. So freebie needle minder just for you from Denki with a little X. That's so sweet. So it's a little fish. I think she should go on my Siren and the Shipwreck. And this one has a little button back. I don't know if you've seen Denki's needle minders, but she does really, really good work. She puts little covered buttons onto the magnets so that they're easier to pull apart, because they're really strong magnets, right? So you grab onto the button part and pull that apart. I'm going to stick her on my Siren in the Shipwreck right now. There we go. So that was nice. She's got lots in her shop. I had to withhold myself from buying any more than one. So over the last 2 weeks, or since my last video, I've been working on, I did work on the Siren and the Shipwreck. This is a Mirabilia design. So I don't know if I showed her where I was the last time, but I did finish her tail. Oh, well, the blue part, the bottom part of her tail, and I'm coming back on the back fin here in the green. So this one, since I started on her, I wondered about converting these colors over to the same colors that are in her fin. And every time I looked at it, I changed my mind. I'm going to change it. No, I'm going to do it in green. I'm going to change it. I'm going to do it in green. And so I went online and did Siren and the Shipwreck images search, and I saw one that was a conversion, and all the rest of them were done with the green, and they all look beautiful. They're all beautiful. And then I started looking at the other mermaids, which I am planning on doing, the Mirabilia mermaids, you know, more of them. And pretty much I think all of them have blue and green as their tail pieces. So I thought, well, if I'm going to hang, you know, if I do 3 or 4 of these and I hang them all together, the blue and the green's all going to be complementary to each other. So I'm doing it with the green. So I worked on her last week, and I made some pretty good progress. I think I did good progress. Yep. And I've been working on the Angel of Summer. Angel of Summer. A little bit every day that I was feeling well enough. There were some days I was not well enough to be doing much of anything. So need something behind this again. So working on her dress still. There's a park thread. Okay, so I finished the garland that comes across her dress here, except for the beads. And I've been working on garland, 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 and dress. So I find the garland is very tedious. So I do one color on the garland, 3 sections, and then I do 1 thread on her dress each day that I can. So I am making a bit more progress on her. I don't have a whole lot left to do, not that much. Oops. Need my notes. And then I worked on Flight of the Lynx by Heaven and Earth Designs. So it's right here. So Heaven and Earth Designs, Flight of the Lynx. This is one of the first ones that I bought. This is a Josephine Wall. Yeah. So this one, like the Treasure Hunt bookshelf and A Stitch in Time, this is going to be one that doesn't have large blocks of color, that I'm going to be able to work with solid blocks of color, which I actually really enjoy. So so there's lots of color switching. So I've started here on the bottom and I'm coming across. And I've been working on the 2 pages at the bottom, and I have no idea why I didn't do, because it's partial pages, I have no idea why I didn't do the bottom page and then the page above it, because that's the way I started Discovery. And when I started this one, I think this was the next one I started after Discovery. I don't know why I didn't do that. Anyway, so I'm almost finished this little page here, which is page 33, and I've also been working on page 34 simultaneously, just because it's the same kind of subject in that, with those little trees at the bottom. So So this is where I am. So I've almost completed this page. There's just a little bit left in there and there. So you can kind of see the shape of the tree coming out there, and then clearly this is, you know, where the clearing is, and then the more trees coming here. I can see it. I like when I'm working on full coverage and you can actually start to see the picture coming out. That's really exciting to me. So yeah, it's there. I'm working on the tree. This is just going to be one of those that's going to have a lot of color switching. Not working in big blocks of color, and that's just the way this one is going to be. So like the treasure hunt bookshelf and A Stitch in Time, this is going to be a multi-year project, not something that I can, you know, sit down and work on for a week and go, wow, I got a lot done. It's going to be a little bit at a time, page by page, for several years, and I'm okay with that because it's going to be beautiful when she's done. So for next week, I am going to be working on, oh, my little board. If you're new, I wanted to just show you I use the Thread Magic, and I had gotten a tip from Country Stitchers. They said to have a separate Thread Magic for light colors and a separate one for dark colors, but I took it a step further and I have a light, medium, and a dark one. And what I do is, like, when I open up my Thread Magic, I just I cut it into quarters or thirds, whichever. I just end up doing quarters, and then I have a little one that I only use for the dark, and I stick magnets onto the bottom of them, and then I can attach them to my magnetic board. So I have a separate one for light, medium, and dark colors. And then when they get yucky, they get, you know, discolored and they kind of lose their stickiness, I just chuck it out and I just add another little quarter piece. So I've got my pansy needle minders and my abalone shell, which is my favorite. Those stuck in there. I think I had this one on here last week. It's just a little blue agate. And on my needle pusher, I was going through some of my jewelry, and this was a little cheap little ring that one of my kids had got me when they were a child, like, you know, like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old for Mother's Day. And it's probably a size 12. It's huge on me. So I stuck it on there as a scissor fob because I think it's cute that my child would buy that for me, but I can't wear it. So I'm going to be working on the Rosebud Wreath. Dropped it. You've seen it. The Rosebud Wreath by Donna Dewberry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to working on several different projects this week. Summer Angel and this one. So I just do a little bit each evening. I am going to be taking the cranberries back to work and working on this one, which is from Cross Country Stitching, October 2003. And I have an idea what I'm going to be doing up in here, and I'll show you that to you later. I'm going to take out those words, and I have a rusted tin star, and I was thinking about putting that in there, but I found something else in a motifs book that I had laying around, so I might be adding that. So that one I'll work on my lunch breaks. And then I'm going to work a little bit more on the Dream, Hope, Believe, Imagine by Joan Elliott Designs. I finished Hope, except for the beads. But I decided I'm going to do all the stitching first, then I'm going to wash them and iron them, and then I'm going to put the beads on and get them ready for framing. I'll do with them all at the same time. So this one is Dream that I started. Just a small start there. And this fabric is from DMC. I believe it's a 16 count. Looks like 16. So that one is Dream. So I'll work on that one a little bit every day and see how much progress I can make with that one. And I think I will continue to also work on Siren and the Shipwreck because I'm really enjoying stitching on that one. That's the first Mirabilia that I've done, and I really, really like it. I like the way the pattern is laid out. I like the flow of the stitching. It's very, very relaxing. So I'll probably go back and work on her a little bit too and see where I can get with that. So just if you're curious, the nail polish of the week. I know some people still, what's that color? This is from ILNP, or I Love Nail Polish. They're an American company. I think they're in Las Vegas. They have an online store, ILNP, and this color is called Dream Girl, and it's a purpley pink holographic. Okay, so that's all I have for this week. Thank you for joining me. Leave any questions and comments in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you and try to answer your questions. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to subscribe, hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified of future videos. Have a good week, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.